Hello, my name is Frank. Although around here, people prefer to call me Frankie. I'm the kind of guy who doesn't say much, but is always busy with various jobs. I grew up in the heart of the country, in a small town where everyone knows everyone. From an early age, I learned that hard work is what keeps things moving around here. But as they say, money doesn't grow on trees. So, when the opportunity to become a night guard in a nearby town came up, I didn't hesitate to accept. I needed to provide for my family, and a day of honest work never intimidated me. The opportunity came through a friend of my father's, who mentioned that the small town was desperately in need of someone to guard the cemetery during the darkest hours of the night. The proposal was simple. I would take the night shift, from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m., and stay on site until the manager arrived in the morning. The reason why the last guard had left so suddenly remained a mystery, but I wasn't one to be deterred by supernatural tales. For me, a job was a job, and I was determined to face any challenge that came my way, even with a lot of fear, having heard horrifying stories about cemeteries. I arrived at the place on a sunny afternoon. The town was small, with dirt roads and simple houses. The cemetery was located on top of a hill, surrounded by a low stone wall. The manager, Mr. Sam, greeted me with a firm handshake and a smile, showing me around. "Frank, welcome. The job is simple. Just keep the place clean and tidy." The first night at the cemetery was quiet. The place was vast, with old graves and twisted trees casting strange shadows. The full moon gave everything a somewhat eerie vibe, but I tried not to think too much about it. As night fell, the silence was broken only by the chirping of crickets and the hooting of owls. Walking among the tombstones, I felt a shiver run down my spine, a strange sensation. But I continued, imagining it was just the night chill. In the stillness of the night, I heard a piercing scream echo through the cemetery, making my heart race uncontrollably. It seemed to come from afar, from some dark place in the depths of the grounds. Without hesitation, I grabbed my flashlight and set out to investigate, fearing someone might be in danger. Among the graves, I spotted a disfigured figure, twisting and screaming desperately. It seemed more like a wild creature than a human being. Instinctively, I followed it, but as soon as it noticed me, it ran off, disappearing into the darkness of the bushes. I stood there, trembling, the flashlight still in my hand, trying to process what I had just witnessed. The next day, I reported the incident to Mr. Manuel, the cemetery's administrator, but he simply shook his head, suggesting that my mind might have been playing tricks on me due to exhaustion. However, something in his tone didn't convince me. I returned home, but the sense of unease lingered. I decided that I needed to be more vigilant. On the second night, I devised a strategy. When the screams started again, I hid near the spot where they had originated the night before. I waited for almost an hour, but nothing happened. I was about to give up when the screams resurfaced, more intense than ever. This time, I was prepared. I ran towards the sounds, but the strange being sensed my presence and fled once more. However, this time, I had an idea. I drove the creature towards the cemetery walls, where it would have nowhere to run. In the corner near the chapel, under the dense shadow of a large tree, I finally saw what it was. I grabbed my flashlight and, without thinking about the consequences, pointed the light directly at that horrifying figure. What I saw at that moment still haunts me to this day. It was a grotesque creature, all tattered and limping awkwardly. Its body was short and squat, its distorted features resembling more a decaying corpse than a living human. Its eyes were large, white, and empty, emanating an indescribable horror. Without warning, the creature opened its mouth in a deafening scream and lunged towards me, moving in a twisted and disordered manner. The fear that overwhelmed me at that moment was overpowering. I ran as fast as I could back to the cabin and locked myself inside, but I could still hear the screams of that thing echoing through the night. I spent the rest of the night awake, trying to understand what I had witnessed. The next morning, I decided to report everything to Mr. Manuel, hoping to find some explanation. However, he just shook his head and suggested that I might be imagining things. Frustrated with his reaction, I decided to investigate further. I headed to the town's bar and looked for Mr. Joaquin, an elderly man who seemed to know all the secrets of the region. When I mentioned what I had seen in the cemetery, his eyes narrowed in recognition. He told me about the Bradador, a haunted entity that haunted the cemetery every night, crying out for help, seeking someone to release it from its coffin. Those words sent a chill down my spine. I knew I couldn't continue working in that cursed place. I resigned immediately and returned to my hometown, my heart relieved to escape that nightmare. Although I never shared the most terrifying details with my family, I still feel the chill down my spine when I recall those 2 nights of terror in the cemetery. Now, whenever someone asks me about work, I say that I will never again be a guard. The memories of the screams, the sight of that distorted creature, and the paralyzing fear remain etched in my mind as a dark reminder that there are things in this world better left alone. And that's why I'm here, sharing my story. Perhaps it serves as a warning for those who think certain things are just legends. Some things are undoubtedly better left hidden. Like, comment, and share your story with our channel.